All right, welcome. My name is Alex Anderson for round 8 of the Spec-5 World Tour at Lime Rock Park. I am joined in the booth by Brennan Horn with Adam Thompson doing production. So, this race, 2008, I believe, Lime Rock Park. Lime Rock Park is a natural terrain motorsport road racing venue located in Lakeville, Connecticut. Built in 1956, it is the nation's third oldest continuously operating road racing venue, behind Road America, built in 1955, and Willow Springs International Motorsports Park, built in 1953. The track is owned by Skip Barber, a former race car driver who started the Skip Barber Racing School in 1975. It was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2009. So, we have one 45-minute race. There will be a pit stop required for fuel. Left tires may be replaced on the drivers, but I am joined in the booth by Brennan Horan. Brennan, what are you expecting for this race?
Well, it's going to be action-packed as always. It's it's Lime Rock Park, and there's really nowhere to not have action. Of course, all the straights are very short, and even the front straight is short in itself. So, going into turn one, I expect to see a lot of moves, and I expect to see a lot of side-by-side action as well, because, like I said, there's really no straights to really get a draft or anything like that. You have to do it all the time.
And here we go for the start of the qualifying session. But yes, as you were talking about, as I believe we are looking at, I believe that is kind of the stop. It might be David, I'm not sure. But like you said, no really main straightaways. I expect some side-by-side racing, like you said. Definitely some, I would say, not really disorienting, but a bit confusing corners here. They're all really long and windy, and I want to take a look up at turn 5. It's a right-hander go right before the uphill, and a lot of people are used to a little chicane being there. This is 2008 Lime Rock. We don't have that chicane. So, Brennan, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's going to be really hard. There's a lot of old videos of cars getting airborne there because it's such a steep hill. And if you do run wide, you have about 4 feet of grass to hit before you hit the wall on the outside of that corner. And if you hit that, you're kind of sitting duck at the top of a blind hill. So that could be a trouble spot tonight. But yeah, like you said, 2008 track. So it's the old track. It's the old surface. It's a bit more abrasive, a bit more grippy. But that should play into the tire strategy and when people pit and stuff like that. But yeah, like you said, that uphill corner is going to be a pretty interesting spot to watch tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And these drivers will have 15 minutes to set the fastest qualifying lap they can. We're currently watching the 137 car. He's going to cross the line. Jedediah Babinek goes fastest. Simon Foweather second. Kenneth Staub in the 137 goes third. And now we are watching Kenneth. He's going to come through turn 3 and then down the no-name straight through turn 4. As we look down at the bottom, you can see everybody finishing their first lap. Greg Brockway and Patrick Prevenaz still on theirs. Jedediah Babinek going for a second one as well. So, as we go on board of Kenneth Staub, Brennan, walk us through a lap around this place, as you seem to know this track pretty well.
So we joined him coming up the uphill. You can see the revs rate rise as the traction on the rear wheels pretty much become non-existent going over that hill. This is West Bend that we're going through right now. We go under this car bridge, because the bridge at the end of the front straight is a pedestrian bridge. But here we come on to the front straight. It's the longest straight, even though it's not that long. This is really the only spot that you can take a breath on this track, because everywhere else it's turn after turn after turn. You see coming into Big Bend right now, hard braking. This corner gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and that's one of the most difficult parts about this corner. It looks like a simple right-hander, but it closes in and closes in on you. Coming into the left-hander, this is the only left-hand corner on the track, which is why I expect left side tires to be taken, because they'll be used a lot. Onto the right-hander now, coming onto no-name straight. It's really not too straight if you can look at it. It's a little bit of a zigzag, really, but they count it as a straight, so we'll call it a straight. Into the uphill, like we were talking about earlier, big trouble spot. You can see revs rise like last lap, getting a little bit of airborne time there. And into West Bend, which again, it's named West Bend because it's a bend at the west side of the track. So coming down the hill, this is a very tricky spot, especially if you're side by side. You're right on the edge of adhesion with the tires, and if you run wide, drop a tire, there's really no stopping you from going into the tire barrier at the exit of the corner.
And here we're looking at Jedediah Babinek in the 55 car. Currently leads the field with a 57.830. Closest person to him is Joshua Soto by 0.06 of a second. Very close so far. Sean Hayes currently setting another lap down. Greg Brockway as well. Jedediah, he's going to complete another one. Going through Sector 2, bit of a yellow sector. Doesn't make up much time there, as we are looking at Greg Brockway now. Coming to the last sector, down this hill, under the bridge. He's going to come into this last corner. Like you said, a very main trouble spot. Fast right-hander, very easy to overestimate how fast he can go through there. He's going to come down to the line, complete his lap. Doesn't look like he's going to improve a 59.7.
Of course,
And
Greg Brockway is the owner of GB Consulting, who is he's the computing power that powers the Spec-5 World Tour. He's computer solutions for businesses. That's his profession. Does a great job at that. And does a great job at helping this league out as well. And none of it could be done without him.
yeah, and on the topic of sponsors, another one coming in hot as we take a look at Rui Coimbra. Our supporting sponsor for the Spec-5 World Tour, Brennan.Horn Photography, ran by Brennan Horn. A nice little way to get some photos of your cars around iRacing. The website link is https://www.brennanhorn-photo.com/contact. Once again, that is www.brennanhorn-photo.com/contact.
Yeah, I want to hop.
bell.
I'm sorry, I want to hop in here real quick, guys, and mention you because we do have Brennan and Alex commentating and co-commentating tonight. I would just like to say, Alex, you did a great job trying to spit out Brennan's insanely ridiculous contact information that he expects us to get out on stream, and that's all I'm going to say about that. I will let you guys get back to the racing now.
Thank you, Adam.
I definitely could have done that a little better. I mean, I've said it before, I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed, but I'd say went pretty well, as we are looking at Otis Adams Jr. in the 22 car. He's only around just under 700s behind. Looks like 67 thousandths behind Jedediah Babinek, 6 thousandths behind Rui Coimbra, his teammate over at #NotATeam. He's done a great job. He's done a great job these past few weeks. But if you look at the top of your screen, you'll see the Pro for the red and the Open for the blue. Basically, all the drivers competing in the same race for the same points, but the Pro class and the Open class. The Pro class is obviously going to have more experienced individuals, and the Open class, bit more of an amateur group, but they still are fast nonetheless. Everybody competing for the same points, but a separate championship, as Otis Adams is going to pull it into the pits.
Yeah, and some people call this track the bull ring. Even though it's a road course, just look at the time differences between all these drivers. It's pretty much only in thousandths of seconds, if not 100ths of seconds. And that kind of reminds you of oval racing that you watch, where the gap between the top 10 drivers could literally be a couple hundredths of a second. Well, this track is so short, just like those ovals, where it's really going to be really tight racing. Is what I'm trying to say. It's running identical laps pretty much.
Right about that. And here we can see the overall gaps. Currently the closest interval to our leader, Joshua Soto, only 6 thousandths off. Rui Coimbra exactly 600ths off. Then Otis Adams Jr., 67 thousandths off. Then Mitchell Peak just over a 10th off Jedediah Babinek. So, very close times here so far as Otis Adams Jr. comes onto an outlap. He's going to go through the west bend and under the bridge, going through that downhill. Like we'd mentioned, a very difficult and tricky spot on this racetrack. Very easy to misjudge your entry and overshoot it on exit. So, speaking of problem corners, I know we've mentioned them already, but Brennan, what would you expect to be the main problem corner or section out of all on this track?
Well, Big Bend, turn one, is a place where it's very wide, so it's very easy to kind of initiate a pass. But like I was saying in that track description, it just gets tighter and tighter and tighter. The radius of the corner gets tighter. The track narrows a little bit, so all of a sudden you could go from 3 wide to only having room for 2 cars, but 3 cars could still be there. So someone's going to have to either give up or get pushed out into the grass. The uphill, as we see Otis going through right now, gets a little bit of air. if you go off there, that could cause problems. But I don't expect many pileups to happen there. The downhill is another place. If you're too wide, it'll be really sketchy. But if you're 3 wide, someone's definitely going to drop a wheel and go off into the tire barrier there. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the trouble areas tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Otis Adams Jr. coming into the pits looks like he's not going to improve, as these guys have just under 5.5 minutes to complete. As we take a look at the track info for this race, this is a 1.47 long mile track. It's quite a short road course, but still an action-packed one nonetheless. The temperature, I believe, that is for the racetrack, currently 105 degrees, making it a bit more grippy, but definitely a solid bit looser. The altitude above sea level is 538 feet. The weather in the air, about 80%, or not, sorry, 80 degrees Fahrenheit, about 78% humidity, partly cloudy with 13-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, it's a scorcher today, 80 degrees. Again, on this very abrasive circuit, I feel like the tires are either going to, fall off really bad, or, someone's going to have to take it easy for a few laps and change their pace just to let their tires go a little bit longer.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with how much you will be wearing the left side tires down. As we mentioned, only one left-hand corner on this racetrack. So you are going to be putting a lot of pressure on those left side tires. It is not going to be easy for these guys to manage them while maintaining a high rate of pace. So, with that, we're going to take a bit of a look at an interest stat, I believe. Back from the dangerous ad here at Lime Rock Park. And as we see, Otis Adams Jr., currently the only car out on the racetrack. He's green in Sector 3, yellow in the first two sectors. He's going to come up, looks like 5.5-minute lap just from sitting on pit road. That might have been his out lap as he starts another flying lap coming down to the big bend in turn 1. And he's obviously trying to set the fastest lap possible.
Yeah, I know. It looks like he's finished his qualifying laps, but yeah, never a bad idea to go out and get a little bit more practice. Unfortunately for him tonight, he is getting an EOL penalty at the start of the race for his race 1, lap 1, turn 2 incident between him and Tom Rath at Twin Ring. That was a trouble spot that we were also expecting last week. So, I think he's shown himself to be a great driver, and, every time he either gets by qualifying or, has to start from somewhere that he's not used to, he gets right up to the front of the field again. So it'll be interesting to see him, really race through this field and get back up to the lead pack.
Yeah, definitely at Twin Ring Motegi, especially with that east layout, I believe it was, going through those first couple turns 2, 3, 4, and 5, just back-to-back left, right, left, or right, left, corners, my apologies. But obviously just a very big trouble spot for these guys, and obviously some of them just couldn't get the front of it down. But Otis Adams Jr., he still proved himself to be a great driver. He knows how to get it done. I put a bit of a commentator's curse on him last week, which I do apologize for. I'm going to try not to do that this time, but I'm hoping he can get a good finish having to overcome that penalty.
Yeah, I think commentator curses seem to be a recurring theme here at Slow Motion Broadcasting. Of course, Adam Thompson, a commentator cursed a driver in the AMS series, the American Muscle Series, a couple days ago, and yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll be the victim, or I'll be the person who curses somebody today, or maybe you, Alex, or hope not, but I'm sure that might happen at some point.
You guys do know I can still hear you, right?
Yeah, but coming to just a minute left in qualifying, Otis Adams, the only car on track right now, just trying to get a bit of extra practice. Pretty smart decision from him. But Jedediah Babinek, he had the fastest lap in practice, currently the fastest lap in qualifying, unless Otis Adams can maybe pull something off. But obviously very close times. Going down even through the top 10, the furthest gap in the top 10 is Jordy Fike, just over 3/10 off. So time's obviously very close here. And with that, let's talk about the slipstream for a moment. Coming down that straight, any car going by itself down any stretch of straightaway is just going to be eating the air in front of it. And that air, just off the way aerodynamics work, is just going to knock down the horsepower and speed of that car just a tad bit. The slipstream, however, is when one car gets directly behind another. That car in the back doesn't have to deal with any of the dirty air on its front bumper, and therefore can basically accelerate as if there was no air in front of it. And even though there's only one really long straightaway with the high speeds of this track and these guys not having to slow down as much, I think it's going to be a pretty big factor as we take a look at today's starting grid.
Yeah, it looks like Jedediah Babinek is going to be starting in P1 tonight, and Joshua Soto P2, only 6,000ths of a second behind him. That's going to be an interesting battle to look at. You see Otis Adams Jr. currently in P4, but he'll be dropped back. Rui Coimbra is the one who qualified P3. In the row behind them, it's Mitchell Peak and Tom Rath, and David Staub, another one to keep an eye out for, and Simon Foweather. Kenneth Staub is going to be starting next to Jordy Fike, who's in 10th place. And Andrew Rosencroft and Charles Vaccaro will be starting together as well. You see Sean Hayes in P13, Brian Zabowski in P14, Paulo Coimbra in P15, and P16 is Jose Gonzalez. Greg Brockway from GB Consulting is going to be starting in 17th tonight, Stephen Helliwell in 18th, Patrick Prevenas in 19th.
That leads us to the end of the starting grid here from Lime Rock Park. Definitely going to be a close race, I would just assume. These guys are currently going to be forming up on the grid. Looks like 40 seconds till they get rolling. You see the light bar at the top of your screen. But just off of pre-race, we've mentioned the slipstream, we've mentioned the high speeds, and we've mentioned the straightaways. They're going to start rolling here. What do you think that this race is going to be like, even just going into turn one?
It's going to be tight, obviously. I think a lot of people are going to want to make moves in here because, it's a 45-minute race, so unlike last week, it's a 45-minute race instead of a 20-minute race. But this track is so hard to pass at that they're going to kind of have to use the same mentality where they have to get around at every chance that they can get because those chances don't open up that much. So I expect to see a lot of passing opportunities or passing attempts going into turn one on lap one. Because it's just what these racing drivers do. They have to go for everything that they can get.
Brendan, before we go,
that's what I expect to see.
Before we get into this, I want to put you guys both in the hot seat. Give me your AM and Pro winner tonight.
Honestly, I'm going with our current pole sitter, Jedediah Babinek. He's shown the speed all throughout the practice and qualifying sessions. For him, that's my pro winner. Otis Adams Jr., very fast in qualifying, even though he had to drop to the back. Don't want to commentators curse him like I did last week, but he's my pick for the open class.
Tonight for the pro class, I'm going to go with Joshua Soto. He's just an unbelievably quick driver. He holds a lot of world records on iRacing, and he's a very clean driver as well. And I think Simon Foweather will be winning the open class tonight, but we'll see in 45 minutes.
All right, well, they're going to come off the final corner through the downhill. A fantastic qualifying session. Fantastic races all around. The pace car is going to pull into the safety of the pit lane. These drivers, 45 minutes to get it done. One pit stop required. They're going to go green, and we are racing here in the Spec-5 World Tour at Lime Rock Park. Rui Coimbra already putting it 3 wide down into turn 1. Nothing Jedediah Babinek can do to defend that. As Tom Rath gets spun, Coimbra had to check up and just nowhere for these guys to go under braking. Andrew Rosencroft, Brian Zabowski make it through. Jordy Fike got a piece of that as well. But
yeah, really unfortunate. It's just such tough luck for Tom. Of course, he got taken out in at Twin Ring as well, and just to see him in pit lane again tonight is just awful.
Right about that. Already a hectic start to this race, but up front, Jedediah Babinek leads. As we take a look at the replay here, it looked like Rui Coimbra tried to send it 3 wide, had to check up. And the 56, I believe that is Mitchell Peak, just gets into Tom Rath, pushes him off track. From there, Tom just says, I've had enough, and Jordy Fike had to go off track to avoid that as well.
Yeah, we see Jedediah pulling a little bit of a gap on Josh Soto, but not much. But Soto has a bit of a gap between him and Rui, so it'll be interesting to see if Rui falls back a little bit more from them. But it looks like the top two are pretty comfortable together right now. Single file line throughout the field, but I expect that to change in a few laps as we get to see what the tires do with all this degradation at this hot temperature.
Yeah, and hopefully we don't miss a pass attempt for the lead. But looking back at Otis Adams, started dead last. He's already made his way up to P12, chasing Paulo Coimbra in 11th. In front of him, Mitchell Peak. Then all four of his open class competitors in Sean Hayes, Simon Foweather, Andrew Wozencroft, and Charles Vaccaro. Definitely not going to be easy to catch up and pass all of them, but he's done a great job early in this race, missing the turn 1 chaos and already making up around 6 spots just on lap 2 of this race.
Yeah, and I expect Otis to partner up with Paulo right now to get through the field. Obviously, they are not teammates. I'm making a joke here because their team is called Not a Team, but yeah, teammates. I figure that they will help each other get back a few spots as well. As we move up to the lead again, we see same as it was last night or last lap. Jedediah in first, Josh in second, Rui in third, David Staub, and it's just a single file line throughout the field again.
Right. Jedediah, fastest lap so far, a 57.901. Looks like looks like maybe 700ths off his pole lap. But Joshua Soto doing a great job holding on so far. He has that gap on 0.2 of a second. Just trying to manage that gap, seeing if he can maybe get a run down this front stretch. He's definitely got the momentum, and he is close enough.
Come back to Foweather now. It looks like he's battling with Sean Hayes going into the final corner. You can see that huge compression that it has, and they're right on his bumper right there on Sean's bumper. Looks like he's going to be going for a pass here on turn 1. You can see the draft plays a little bit of a role, but when you get out of it, there's really no draft. As we see Simon try to make this move into turn 1. Looks like he's going to get it, and he does get it. But now that opens the door for Wozencroft now to get past Sean as well. So looks like a lot of pressure on Sean right now.
A great battle back here in the rear of the field. All four of these open drivers just racing as hard as they can as we see Andrew Wozencroft. He's leading Charles Vaccaro. Then you got the pro driver of Mitchell Peak involved in that turn 1 incident. But back up towards the front, Joshua Soto just stole that fastest lap. It looked like even maybe a 10th faster than his quali lap. Unless their quali laps were in the 6s, which if they were, I do apologize. But a 57.705. Almost 2 full tenths faster than Jedediah Babinek's fastest lap of the race. But a great job from Joshua Soto. He's hanging on to the leader's rear bumper. It's only a matter of time before I think he makes a move for that lead spot.
Yeah, 2 tenths. I know Josh is really quick, but I don't think he's that quick. We saw the qualifying times were really close, but so obviously the draft is playing a little bit of a role here. So that'll be interesting. Fuel is another thing that I wanted to talk about. You're going to want to figure out how much fuel you need to take, and if you're in the draft, you obviously need to take less. Something I learned way back when I first started going to Lime Rock was a pit stop pretty much almost puts you a lap down, because this track is so short that when you're going through the pits, whoever's not in the pits at that moment is just going to go around the track and pretty much come up to your bumper as you're coming out of the pits. So to see strategy work like that, you're going to have to look at, it's just going to be a nightmare trying to see where you're going to come out of the pits, because there's going to be so many cars spread out as we see the leaders go a little bit wide at West Bend. It's going to be a nightmare for these drivers to figure out when they want to pit, because no matter what, they're going to be stuck in traffic.
Yeah, definitely. And another factor that also comes into play is these drivers maybe wanting to see the least amount of fuel they can put into the car. Obviously, with this track, the slipstream is definitely in effect, but another thing that comes into effect is weight. The weight of this car, especially on less fuel, could definitely affect the way it drives, and it just might give them a little bit of an edge. So we see Joshua Soto still hanging onto the rear bumper of Jedediah Babinek, just not able to make a move right now.
Yeah, it's a good point that you just made about the fuel.
And
technical track like this, the light cars, they're like you said, they're going to drive a lot different.
Yeah, and Andrew Wozencroft, I want to take a look. I think something might have happened to him. We look back on him, he was racing with Sean Hayes and Simon Foweather, and now he's dropped all the way back to, look like 13th. So we see him coming here into turn 1, goes to make the corner. Oh, and that is just way too hard into the corner. misses it by a mile, gets it back on the racetrack, and ends up behind Jordy Fike in 13th. Pretty good minimalization of just great job minimizing the damage taken from that. But back up front, Rui Coimbra has closed his gap to Joshua Soto from about 9/10 to around 5/10.
Yeah, it's a pretty big gain there, and maybe they're going to start pulling away from the second pack, which it looks like they already have 7.2 seconds, like you said. Yeah, it looks like we're starting to see some pack racing now.
But Joshua Soto put his gap down to almost under 1/10 as they come over the uphill. Looked like he might have had to check up in turn 5. Through the west bend now. Soto just needs to look for the best exit speed possible as Babinek gets right up to the grass, almost goes off track, and with that corner being so tight because of this track being from 2008, because of how tight that corner is, if you just dip the wheels just a bit too far in, you're into the tires.
Yeah, it's never a spot that you want to end up. We get the onboard camera now from Joshua Soto right up on the bumper of Jedediah, and you can see how pumpy this corner is. It's almost like the Nürburgring where you have the carousel. Well, that turn 1 right here looks a little bit banked and maybe had a couple of concrete patches, and same with here too. So, very old style track with this 2008 layout, and just such a fun track to look at as we see going down No Name Straight, coming to the uphill. You can see Josh kind of fighting with the wheel a little bit. The track must be really bouncy, and you can see now on Jordy Fike now, who's battling Paulo, and Charles up ahead. It looks like they're in a pretty good draft train right now.
Yeah, Jordy Fike just trying to do the best as he can. Didn't get the greatest start, had to put his car off track to miss the turn 1 incident, but right now just chasing a bunch of open drivers. Looks like he's just sitting in line trying to mind his own business and trying to think about the long game here.
I'm sure that they're saving a lot of fuel kind of all together there. So, maybe Jordy Fike is really, like you said, just thinking about the long game. As we see, they get a little bit shuffled up into turn 1. They hit that big curb, but they all come out okay.
Going back up to the leaders, as it looks like there might have been a bit of side-by-side action there. They keep it single file. Rui Coimbra has knocked down his gap from 5/10 now to under 3/10 of a second. So, it's not just a race between Jedediah Babinek and Joshua Soto anymore. Rui Coimbra, one of the greatest drivers in this series, he's put himself into play now.
I think Jedediah right now is thinking about, how 2 drivers behind him are saving fuel and he's not saving fuel. I wonder if he wants to let those 2 drivers by, as we see Jordy Fike now get by Paulo at the left-hander, another tight corner. You got to take this one as a late apex, but when you're passing somebody, you almost have to take it as an early apex, and that pretty much worked out for him until he started blinking there. But job done for Jordy as we go back live here to the leaders.
Yeah, a great move through with the left-hander and down the no-name straight. Speaking of great moves, Joshua Soto had a chance to look to the outside there, thought better of it. Jedediah Babinek just blocking the inside there. Soto definitely is there. There's no doubt in my mind he could go for a move here. Looks like he tries to pull out a line, but just isn't able to there. He just still sits behind Babinek. He's only 1.5 tenths behind as we see Patrick Prevenos in the 29 car. Breaks into the west bend here. Oh, and he just way overshoots it. A great job keeping it out of the tires and brings it back onto the racetrack. Fantastic save from him as we go back to the leaders. Joshua Soto still riding the back bumper of Jedediah Babinek as he blinks a little bit there. Going into turn 1, still just can't get anything done. He's just waiting in line, trying to wait for an opportunity as these 3 leaders, the Babinek, Soto, and Coimbra, have pulled a 4-second gap between them and the closest car behind, David Staub. So, even if they are racing each other for the lead, do you think they might be able to pull off a little bit of strategy to try and stay with each other for the end of this race?
I will.
I'm sure
one second here,
try
Brennan.
to.
I just want to shout out the YouTube chat. We haven't really gotten much here in terms of the YouTube chat, but we did see Damn Good Butter mention you, Alex Andermid. I don't know if that is a name that you know or not. And then Joshua Soto came back with an LOL. So maybe there's something I'm missing here, but sounds like there may be a little bit of an inside joke going there, Alex.
Well, all right. That's not the Anderson last name nickname I'm used to. I'm more used to Anderfard. But Andermid, I guess he might be judging my commentating a little bit there. I'll remember that. That is my good buddy Ethan Stanley. I talk to him quite a lot when I run my own league on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and now Saturdays for an IndyCar series. But very good friend in him. I enjoy talking to him a lot. He's a great guy, and so we see a little bit of chaos back here. Jordy Fike and Charles Vaccaro racing Sean Hayes. Sean able to keep that spot going to the left-hander. Vaccaro almost touches him as they go through the right-hander and down the no-name straight one more time.
Yeah, Charles Vaccaro is another one of the rear-wheel drivers in this league, and I've actually had the privilege of seeing Charles Vaccaro race at Lime Rock in real life, so that was cool as we see Jordy Fike make that move on Sean. Looks like Sean went a little bit wide there on turn one. Tried to fight back, but Jordy got by him, and yeah.
Looked like almost the same mistake Andrew Wozencroft made going off track. Sean just able to get it, barely able to stick there. As Joshua Soto, he's just still trying to maintain that gap up front as we see Andrew Wozencroft and Paulo Coimbra side by side going into turn one. Andrew decides to give him the corner. Obviously, very smart move. He wasn't there by much and just trying to preserve that race car for a little bit longer and just keep it steady for the end of this race. As we are now in the 12-minute mark, almost a third of the way through this race, which means pit stops are going to come in eventually. So, Brennan, if you're one of these drivers, what lap are you coming into the pits?
Well, I'm going to try to run it out as far as I can, because like you said earlier, lighter fuel with a lighter fuel load on a technical track like this is just going to really suit these cars. And one of the things that I was thinking about is Jedediah going to let these two behind him by? Because if I'm Jedediah, I know that no matter what happens, if I pit at the same time as the two guys behind me, they're going to come out a bit ahead of me because I have to take a lot more fuel. These two drivers behind Jedediah right now are saving a ton of fuel by sitting behind him in the draft and by lifting and coasting into the corners because they can just catch right back up to him in the draft. So that's just one of the things that I'm keeping in my mind. I wonder what's going to happen here with him.
Brendan, I'm back again. I've got a question for you. Jedediah has been leading this race basically, every lap so far. And you mentioned as Joshua Soto does go way wide, and that's going to give Coimbra maybe the... Nope, just kidding. Soto got back on track just in time. But we're watching Babinek basically run, up front this whole time. Do you have any idea how much more fuel he's burning than, say, Coimbra?
It's kind of hard to tell. I feel like, from a per lap basis, it's going to be, just, a thousandth of a gallon or something like that. But in the pits, I feel like he's going to have to take maybe, 4/10 of a gallon more fuel than the two behind him, which, that's 5 seconds almost in the pits. So
is that an extra really 5 seconds compared to just taking? So 4/10 of a fuel is an extra 5 seconds in the pits, you're saying?
Yeah, 3 to 5 seconds. It kind of depends. There's a little bit of discrepancy between different people in their fueling, or so I'm told. But yeah, that could really mess with your race. So you're going to have to either have a really good in lap or a really good out lap or a really good pit entry because you brake a lot later and hit that speed limit right at that line. As we see Jose in the pits, looks like he's not taking tires. I don't think he's only taking fuel.
I don't want to.
So yeah,
I hate to intrude on your guys' stream here, but Gonzalez did at least take right sides. I saw the right side of his car drop down as we went to his car. Would you imagine most of these guys are going to try to take tires around this track?
If they are going to take tires, it would definitely be left side tires because there's only one left-hand corner, so they're going to be using the left-hand tires on all the right-hand corners. So I don't know if that was a mistake by Jose if he took left side tire or right side tires, but yeah, I expect if people do take tires, they'll be taking left sides.
Okay, Alex, I'm gonna give it back to you now. I'm sorry, I kind of intruded on your stream there, guys.
That's all good. Joshua Soto gave a little bit of room to Rui Coimbra there to try and make a move a couple laps ago. Rui decides better of it, sits in line. Jose Gonzalez comes into the pits and does, I believe he took tires and fuel there. Joshua Soto still able to maintain that gap under 4/10. Looks like he's just able to just compete there and just stay right in that draft. And he's doing a great job just minding his own business as we see David Staub, Mitchell Peak, and Otis Adams. The three of those guys, they all come into the pits. Brian Zabelski comes in as well, and Greg Rockway.
Yeah, so we'll have to look at these pit times and see, maybe someone either. Oh, as we see Mitchell Peak have to back up, it looks like he misses pit stall, so he's going to get out a lot later than these two drivers. Yep, there we go. Left side tires for all of them. Still a little bit more fuel going into the car right now, and you'll see them spin off right now. There goes Adams, or not Adams. There goes Mitchell now, last place again.
Yeah, Mitchell Peak didn't get a great stop there. Comes out behind most of the people he went in with. And just not able to make up or really keep any of the spots. As now there's some gaps between the three of those guys. Prevonos also in the pits as well. Just pits all by his lonesome, nobody with him. Simon Foweather from 4th comes into the pits. And maybe a little bit of an undercut compared to the rest of the field up front to try and get something done.
Yeah, it looks like he pulled in a little bit late. You could see the drivers behind really had no time to react to that. As we look back up at the lead, now the eyes are on these guys. When are they going to pit? And if Jedediah pits, are the two behind him going to pit, or are the two behind him going to pit without Jedediah knowing? Because if Josh starts to go in, obviously Jedediah can't really react to that because he's ahead of him. So that's another strategy thing to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and Jedediah just doing a really good job up front. He's just trying to just keep Soto behind him while keeping his car clean as much as possible. We saw him go off track a couple of times. And he's just doing a pretty good job up there. Doesn't have the fastest lap, but he's just done a really good job all race. And he's just trying just keep that car clean up there. But he does have two really fast people following him.
He sure does, and we see the pit strategy here on the bottom right. Looks like they're pretty much 18 lap stints. We're not halfway through the race quite yet, so I don't really know when they're going to run out of fuel. But I think, like me and you were saying, Alex, I think lighter fuel is going to suit these cars. So I think it's going to really help these people if they go all the way and run them dry.
Yeah, and if they run these cars dry and they can set a couple of fast laps, they can definitely do a pretty good job here at increasing that gap more. 6 seconds between the top three and kind of the stop right now. They've done a great job pulling away from the field. Jose Gonzalez and Brian Zabelski out of the pits together. Looks like Jose got out in front of Brian after both of their pit stops. Just a great job from Jose to make up that spot. Obviously, he hasn't had the best race, started 16th. He's up 2 spots, but he's still doing a pretty decent job for #NotAteam. And just really, it's just all about pit strategy right now.
Brennan, if you're looking, I apologize. If you're looking at these pit lane times, so I'm seeing, let's say Simon Foweather, for example, runs a 37.4 in the pits. Meanwhile, Mitchell Peak gets a 40.9, and what I believe that was Mitchell that blew through his pit box and had to back up. But looking at some of these other pit stops, it only looks like he lost about 0.2 of a second or so on that.
Yeah, one of the things that I did, I had a pretty bad run of consistently missing my pit stall. And what I would do is I would actually short fuel. So I would, kind of get back the time that I lost from missing my pit stop from just not taking as much fuel, which would make my stop shorter. Now, the advantage of that is staying with whatever cars you came in with, so you could get the draft, you can work together. But the issue with that is you really have to work on saving fuel, and you have to get really, really good at saving fuel, because obviously if you just lift all the time, you're going to lose that car. So you have to be smart about lifting and coasting into the corners, or maybe waiting to get on the gas a little bit longer, and then really figuring out where the draft helps you, so that you don't have to use as much throttle, you don't have to use as much gas pushing through the air. So that might be something that Mitchell Peak did. I know he's very clever on his strategies, so he could be already formulating a way to if he did short fuel, he's already figured out how he's gonna make that work for the rest of the race. So we go to Otis Adams now. Looks like he's trying to make a move on Simon into the left-hander, but not going to be able to do it right now. But he is right up on his bumper, so this will be an interesting one to look at for the next few laps.
Yeah, and Otis Adams tried to make a move there on Simon Foweather, just couldn't get it to stick. and he's currently just working with that number 236 car to try and make up a bit of time. 20 seconds back of Paulo Coimbra in front of him, but they do still have time, as all those guys in front of them have yet to pit, as we just come about 1.5 minutes shy of the halfway mark.
Yeah, it looks like they're coming up on a lapped car right now as well, so maybe they're going to decide to pit on there so that they're not held up, because of course it's kind of hard to get by lapped cars unless they're actively trying to let you by. So we'll probably see them pit in a couple of laps here, and then we will finally have the answer to all the questions that we were having. It's going to be really sketchy coming out of the pits. Of course, they're really only going to be taking either no tires at all or 2 tires. Taking no tires is kind of a disadvantage because you're not going to have new tires around the right-hand corners, so you won't be able to carry as much speed, but they'll be evenly worn, so it won't be as sketchy into the braking zones and maybe on the exit of corners. If you take the 2 tires on the left sides, it's going to be a lot of traction on the left side, not much traction on the right side. So braking zones are going to be a little bit squirrely. You're going to have to fight the car a little bit for the first couple of laps until the temperatures and until the wear sort of evens out. It'll be never perfectly even, but after a few laps, the car gets to feel a little bit better.
Yeah,
but that'll be something to look at too.
Sure. Yeah, Brennan and Alex, and everybody who's watching the stream tonight, I just want to apologize. I'm sitting here. This is the first time we've kind of done a 3-person crew here with me trying to run the cameras and Brennan and Alex commentating. It is my bachelor party, in case anybody was wondering. So I apologize for that last little escapade I kind of went on to try to talk about, what was going on in the race. So from here on out, it's going to be Brennan and Alex here, and to you, Brennan, and to all the admins and everybody in Spec-5, I apologize for kind of jumbling my words there, trying to get them out the last time, but I would like to say I am over 21, so I've been drinking just a little bit tonight. So enjoy the rest of the race, guys, and I'm just going to run the cameras from here on out.
Well, I hope the camera doesn't get a little bit too shaky there, Adam. Congratulations, and hope you have fun tonight. As we look back at the leaders, it's really, like I was saying, we're going to learn all the answers to the questions that we had. Now we go back to full weather, still trying to make a move on Otis Adams. Otis Adams did pass him, actually. Past Simon. We're going to see a replay of that right now. It looks like, at turn 1, like we were expecting. Just a very simple turn 1 pass, really, side by side for a little bit longer than I figure Otis was probably hoping for, but then Simon actually got a pretty good run out of the corner. So, again, this is another one that we're going to have to keep an eye on throughout the race.
Yeah, and a great move from Otis Adams to move himself just up one more position. Obviously not the most advantageous start after having to receive an EOL penalty after twin ring Motegi. So Otis Adams, just a great move from him. He's able to keep that car up there right now. As if we can take a look back at the leaders here. Jedediah Babinek still leading this race. Joshua Soto has been following him the entire time. And can't really get the gaps up right now. Rui Coimbra still in P3. Just trying to chase these two down. So they are neck and neck going through the West Bend.
They are, and here they come down onto the final corner. Looks like Joshua Soto is getting a little bit antsy, but look at the gap now behind them. It's grown a little bit. I wonder if that's gonna expand or not.
Yeah, and Jedediah Babinek, we can still see him. He's just pushing, or excuse me, Soto is pushing Babinek straight down the straightaway, and with that. That has obviously shown that even though not very long straightaways, the draft is still in effect here, and these guys can still use it. And that also shows that Soto definitely is faster, whether it's with the draft or just off cornering. Soto is faster, and he can definitely get up to Babinek and make a move to try and take that lead away, but he's just probably worrying about pit stops right now, I would assume, and he's just chilling back there in second. He knows he has the pace, he knows he has the speed, and I'd say he knows he has a shot at winning this race.
I think that too, and this is one of the things. I think that Joshua Soto might have a little bit more pace, but it's just reserving that a little bit and probably saving a little bit of fuel as we go and look at Simon Foa there again. It's 4-car train right now with David Staub behind him, and then Mitchell Peak, it looks like, in the back of that pack.
And Rui Coimbra did come into the pits there. He's currently on pit exit and back out onto the racetrack. Dropped down to P8 from that. Looks like he's maybe half a lap behind the leaders. And Charles Vaccaro still hasn't pitted yet, I do not believe. 9 seconds behind 1.7 seconds behind Kenneth Staub, who is 9 seconds back of our leaders. And actually,
I wonder what's happening there.
Just as I was saying that, Joshua Soto comes into the pit lane. Looks like he just came in there without warning. Jedediah Babinek did not go with him. Going to pull into a stall, probably take left side tires and just enough fuel to make it to the end that he only needs to go around 18.5 minutes. So, with Joshua Soto performing the undercut of the 2 leaders, what do you think Babinek is going to do here?
Well, I think that the now two in the lead right now are going to have to pit together no matter what, because with Joshua Soto coming out of the pits now with fresh, with kind of almost a fresh mindset too, he's going to be able to put a lot of good laps down. We see it looks like they're going to get held up by lap traffic right now. So I think they're going to have to pit this lap.
Right about that. Jedediah Babinek, he's racing with lap cars right now. I believe that is Greg Brockway behind him. Can't really tell who that is in front of him. Just as you were saying, Brennan, Babinek comes into the pits. A great pit entry, makes pit speed. That looks like Kenneth Staub coming behind him to pick up the race lead. He stays out. Charles Vaccaro comes into the pits back there. Now, this is what it all comes down to. If Jedediah Babinek can get out onto the racetrack fast enough, he'll have kept himself in the lead and within the shot of this race win. Still putting the left sides on, but actually Rui Coimbra came out ahead of Joshua Soto, and with that, the newer tires prevailing. Jedediah Babinek still coming through pit exit. Rui Coimbra takes the provisional lead of this race. Nothing Soto and Babinek can do, as Babinek has now dropped down to 8th place.
Babinek's going to have a really tough time getting through those other cars in between him and Joshua Soto. I mean, that was just a really bad situation for him to come out of the pits there, and really unfortunate for him because, it looked like he had the pace to be P1, and now he's, a few seconds behind P1.
Yeah, right about that. And out of pit road, it looks like Babinek either I honestly think it was the tires that we were talking about. Kenneth Staub and Sean Hayes, your top 2, but I honestly think it was the tire situation that we were talking about. We said that if you pitted early, you could have fresher tires for just a few laps, and that could get your gap just a little bit higher than it would if you all pitted at the same time. So, Rui Coimbra takes advantage of that. He has a 2.5 second lead over Joshua Soto, and Babinek is stuck behind 3 other cars. So, what I want to think about now is what's going to happen here later in this race. When Rui Coimbra, he obviously pitted a couple laps earlier, his left sides are going to be just a little bit more worn out than Joshua Soto's.
Yeah, that's tough to say. It really all depends on what happens right now. As we see, it looks like Joshua Soto being passed now going into the uphill. I wonder how that feels for him right now as you see Rui pull away. Rui is currently the points leader right now, and his closest competitor is George Fike, who has 356 points, and that's compared to the 380 points that Rui has. So he'll get a lot of points, big points all tonight, as we see Soto getting passed by Otis Adams Jr. into the uphill. Josh probably has pretty old tires.
Yeah, looks like Soto just gave him the corner there, going down the no-name straight. Just not really thinking it's worth it to race right now. Maybe just trying to save his tires a little bit longer. But here's something that I'm confused about. Brennan, are these guys able to go half an hour on fuel?
Well, it's funny. The Staubs usually play the fuel game perfectly. We've made jokes in the past about David Staub maybe having a bigger fuel tank than the other cars. We've seen him take, 3 wide as we see almost 4 wide. Oh my goodness, this is hard to watch right now as we see Simon go a little bit wide. Looked like it was all by himself. I didn't see any contact, but 4 wide, I probably forget where my braking marker is too.
even if there wasn't any contact between them, I'm surprised there wasn't, even though Foweather went off track straight from the middle lane, 4 wide into turn 1 between David Staub, Simon Foweather, Jedediah Babinek, and Mitchell Peak down there on the inside as well. You can see Rui Coimbra and Joshua Soto in front of him. Looks like Foweather is the last car to hit the brakes going into turn 1. Just can't get that car to grip going into the big bend to slide straight off the track, but a great job done by him to minimize damage on himself and the other cars.
Yeah, we saw somebody else do that too. I think it was on lap 2 maybe or something like that. But yeah, it's very hard to outbrake all 3 cars that you're battling if you're Simon. But yeah, I guess someone had to be the latest breaker, and it looked like he was the one who was.
And going back live, looks like Kenneth Staub didn't make his pit stop. He comes into the pits, and that is going to give Rui Coimbra the lead after, I believe, Hayes pitted as well earlier. We must not have caught that. But Kenneth Staub into the pits, can't hold on to the lead, gets easily passed by Rui Coimbra. Still getting those left side tires on as here comes the rest of the field around him. This is where the strategy game would come into play, however. So
I was just thinking Kenneth Staub took a bonus point. If you lead a lap in this league, you get a bonus point. So really, if you're staying out longer and longer and longer, and if you're the last one to pit, you do essentially get a bonus point. Hopefully the lap times work out in your favor with the tire wear and stuff like that, where gaining that bonus point doesn't lose you a spot, which then takes 2 points away from you. Looks like we're going to get a replay here of Joshua Soto. We'll see what he was doing here, driving with the 22 car of Otis Adams Jr. Remember, he was in second place throughout most of this race as he goes wide at the right-hander entering the no-name straight.
Yeah, just went wide at the right-hander, gets it onto the grass. Good job keeping it out of the tires. He's able to maintain his space behind Otis Adams Jr. and Jedediah Babinek. As we look at the board, it's currently a hashtag not a team top 2 for the pro and open class.
Yeah, and we were saying Otis Adams had an EOL at the beginning of this race, and look at where he is. He's in P3, P1 in his class. So, once again, he's just, as we see them battling right now, Joshua Soto and Otis Adams on the left-hander, a little bit of contact there. Oh, man, that was really close.
And it looked like going into that corner, it looked like Adams came up just a little bit. As here we look at David Staub making a pass on Mitchell Peak side by side through the uphill. Neither of them gives. This might get sketchy. David Staub goes wide. They both hold on to it. They're going to be side by side going into the west bend. Looks like Mitchell Peak gets the advantage there and is able to take that spot away as they come through the downhill.
I'm sure right now David Staub is going to want to get a pass back as we go on to the front straight. I don't think he's going to have enough draft here, but again, you never know. You see both of them go very wide. David essentially has a triple draft because there's 3 cars in front of him punching a hole, so probably a lot quicker. But no pass for David Staub into turn 1 this lap, but we'll have to keep an eye on this one as well.
David Staub currently doing a great job for himself. Currently P5 in class, P6 overall. Otis Adams currently leading the way for that group. Here's Babinek. Has gotten a little bit further away from... I believe, yeah, that was Otis Adams Jr. He got a little bit further away from Otis Adams Jr. And he's just able to pull a 1 second gap as they come into the west bend. But still, this 10 minutes to go in this race, or 10 and a half per se, Rui Coimbra leads by 5.3 seconds. A great pit strategy from him, but those left side tires must not be feeling too good right now.
No, I know. They're probably a little bit worn, and we'll have to keep an eye on that gap to see if it either expands or decreases. Obviously, the drivers behind him are in the draft, and he's all alone, but now we go back to Joshua Soto. Still there. It looks like he's in P4 now overall, which, coming from P2, right up there with Rui and Jedediah, all the way back here. One of the things that I'm thinking about if I'm a driver in this pack is, well, geez, Rui is really, really far ahead. Maybe he didn't take a lot of fuel. I'm thinking, well, I know I'm not going to catch him, but hopefully he's going to run out of gas here soon. So I'm going to make sure I don't run out of gas. I'm going to fuel save a little bit, play it a little bit safe. And, I'll be hoping that Rui runs out of fuel if I'm one of these drivers. Of course, I don't want him to run out of fuel because, well, it'll just be an amazing race for him.
Yeah, so, Alex, Do you remember last week when you said you were still waiting for the day that Otis Adams wins a race in the open class?
Yeah, and I don't want to put another commentator's curse
Oh
on him like I did
no!
last
Yeah, I'm
week.
not. See, this is what happens when I say things. Context.
Dang it! Adam, we do this every time.
Oh.
Soto gives a little bit of the bumper, I believe, into turn one. Door-to-door racing. It looks like a little bit more contact through the left-hander into the right-hander and down. No name straight. I don't think Otis Adams is going to be feeling too good about that.
No, he's certainly going to try to make a pass on the uphill right now. You can see gets right behind him. Maybe not here, but maybe the next corner. Maybe he's thinking of what he's going to do on the final corner where that high speed going onto the front straight. And Otis Adams is right there as well.
Yeah, and Otis Adams Jr., even though he just got past, still doing a fantastic job this race. Adam, I don't want to give him another commentator's curse, man, but he's riding pretty up there, leading his class P4 overall.
Otis, I do want to let you know, Otis, if you do watch this stream back, Alex and I have been rooting for you for at least the last 4 weeks that we've been covering this league now, because we know, Alex, that he can make it happen. He's quick. Just some things that have happened, and to watch him drive from the back of the field up in to 4th overall. I mean, look at all the pro guys he has gotten around right now. So this may really be a chance. Is that Fike? Nope, that's Peak that goes super wide. Anyways, yeah, so, no, Otis Adams, I think, really does. Never mind. I'm not going to say it.
And Mitchell Peak, again, like we've said before, a great job from him and all of these drivers from minimizing damage from going off track between themselves and others. Looks like maybe another off track from Mitchell Peak as we look at a replay of this one. It's coming to the left-hander into the right-hander, maybe just not the best aligned, maybe just didn't lift as much as he should have, gets those left sides into the grass, just barely keeps it off the wall. As we take a look at Andrew Wozencroft, he was up racing with his open class competitors. Looks like just too deep into turn one yet again. Again, a good job minimizing damage, able to get it back into the racing groove and keep it together. And here we go, Stephen Hellowell coming into turn one here. Looks like, again, after he passed Greg Brockway just too hard into turn one, goes off almost the same exact way Wozencroft did. Just straight off the track, and Greg gets by him as he comes through the left-hander into the right-hander. As we come back to live, and it looked like that was a car off track. I'm not sure who that was. It looked like Joshua Soto. Or, excuse me, that was David Staub. Like we said with that last corner, Brennan, very easy to place to overshoot and go off.
Yeah, and if you noticed on that right-hander where Mitchell went off and on turn one, it's almost like right when it turns into grass, it becomes really off camber. So if you do go wide, it's really hard to bring it back, but you see all these drivers made it back very well, so I'm very impressed with them.
David, if you watch this stream back, I do want to let you know that was me feeding Alex incorrect information. That was actually Joshua Soto that went off track there. So don't get mad at Alex, get mad at me. Never mind. I'm trying to do too much right now, but yeah, no, that was definitely Joshua Soto that went off track in the front of this pack.
And Joshua Soto, like we said, like we kept saying, a very easy spot to go off track. But as we go on board with David Staub coming down this front stretch, he's right on the back bumper of Mitchell Peak. Gives him a little bit of a bump down that front straightaway, lets off, and just keeps it together in the corner. Just trying to run with these guys here to see if they can make up any time at all on Rui Coimbra, but Rui has still done a great job up front. He's currently got a 6.4 second gap, and he can probably just cruise for the last 5 minutes of this race. Take a look at Otis Adams chasing Joshua Soto down the no-name straight. Looks like he's not going to be close enough to make a move even with the slipstream as they come through this right-hand corner into the uphill. So you see we talked about, you can see his right front tire almost getting airborne, and on Simon Foweather you can see both of his front tires getting airborne there coming over the uphill. A great drive from Foweather this race, P7 overall, second in class. So if I can finish this race if I'm Slavin Foweather and I can finish this race right where I am, I'd definitely be okay with that.
If you look at the gap now that Jedediah has pulled on Joshua Soto, all that off-track off-roading that Joshua Soto has done has let Jedediah pull away from him, so it looks like they're out of the draft. Really, at this track, for the draft to be a little bit useful is like 1.2 seconds, but 1.6 seconds right now, obviously, that's not helping Josh at all. He's going to have to put a couple of fast laps, and as you see, the last lap that he did was the 57.7. That's the fastest lap of the race so far, so looks like Josh has gotten his head back down and is going to go and try to catch Jedediah with about 5 minutes left.
So, Brennan, I want to ask you, man, real quickly. So, last season, you guys did run this track. Obviously, it was a different configuration, but the racing was much closer last season than it was to this season. What do you think contributes to that?
Yeah, it's with the new resurfaced track and this track, it's a huge difference. The track surface, it's like going from Sebring to an F1 track. It's super smooth at the new track, and it's super bumpy here. It could make a couple of drivers not as confident in the car as they could be, and a little bit more nervous in the braking zones and mid corner. Maybe you can see these huge, looks like concrete slabs pretty much in the ground. That makes a lot of bumpiness in the car, and that's just something that could a little bit off-putting for the driver who's trying to make a move. So maybe they're not going to make as many moves as they would at the new circuit.
Those guys still on a 4-car freight train as we take a look at Andrew Wozencroft again going into turn 1. Oh, he's way late on the brakes, straight off track. I don't know how he kept that one out of the tire wall. It looked like he came into that corner full throttle, puts it back on the track and keeps it going like nothing happened. A great job from him. So we see Sean Hayes looking for an overtake attempt. He pulls to his right side down the no-name straight. Just side by side coming down those little high-speed kinks. Wozencroft gives him the corner as they come over the uphills. We take a look at David Staub once again coming through this last corner. So like just overshoots it a little. You can see him go a bit wider than Peak in front of him. Puts it off track. Doesn't get into the tires and keeps it on the racing surface and able to keep his spot. But back up towards the front of that pack, Paulo Coimbra looks like he's making a move here on Charles Vaccaro. Goes into the corner and gets it just towards the outside. As here we see Otis Adams to the inside of David Staub to the left-hander. Lost the spot there and spins through the left-hander. Dang it, Adam! We did it again. We gave him the commentator's curse.
I really just need to stop talking in these races because I watched this happen and I didn't want to show it, but I mean, it just shows the speed that Otis Adams has, and it's just one minor mistake, and it just seems to bring him back. We're going to go back live right now and show you what exactly that has done to Otis Adams. Look at where he's at right now. He's 4th in class.
We did it again, and that gives Foweather the lead for the open class in the final minute of this race. And if I'm not mistaken, they might take the white flag here for Rui Coimbra, as it's a big accident. Joshua Soto and Mitchell Peak. I don't even know what happened there. It looked like Soto might have gotten off track. Spins back onto the racetrack right in front of Mitchell Peak and nowhere to go. But up front, Rui Coimbra looks like he might have taken the lead as we take a replay of this. Coming through the uphill, and Soto just goes wide, hits the guardrail, nowhere for Mitchell Peak to go. A very violent accident for that 135 car. As we go back to Rui Coimbra up front, I do believe that was the white flag lap. Rui Coimbra, he's done a great job all race. He was in P3 for pretty much the entire first half of the race. Pulls a bit of an undercut on the leaders. And after so many laps of just the worst kind of race where you can't see the people you're racing, pulls the pitch strategy off. And as he comes through the downhill, as Foweather trying to make a move on Mitchell Peak, to try and move himself up into 4th overall, Rui Coimbra comes off the last corner to win round 8 of the Spec-5 World Tour here at Lime Rock Park. But going back to that fight, Mitchell Peak just in front of Simon Foweather. Foweather's going to have to pull something off really well off this last corner. He gets a nice run and stays behind him. Doesn't peek out of line. There he goes! And he's not able to get it done. Mitchell Peak P4, Simon Foweather P5. Jedediah Babinek ends up getting second, and David Staub in third.
Just an amazing race. It's like I said at the beginning of this, it's going to be, it's either going to be really tight or it's going to be all on strategy, and it looks like it was on strategy tonight. And, very close finish there between those two drivers. And, I think, for Rui to come out almost, over 5 seconds ahead of the second place driver, it's just a big accomplishment for him.
A fantastic race from everyone all around. Otis Adams Jr., heartbreak once again, Adam. I hate it, but we did it again. This is, the third race in a row? We've given him the commentator's curse. I hate it for him. Fantastic driver. He has speed all race, and it's just bad luck ends up swallowing him again. I don't want to prematurely give him a commentator's curse for next week, but I swear to God, he's got this next week. I know he does.
One of these races, he's gonna get it, Brennan. And I know that you've been an admin in this league and you kind of see what's going on, but one of these days, Otis Adams is going to win this open class. He's got the pace, he's got the speed. It's just, oh man, it's just not quite there yet.
I know he's pretty much racing with the pro class drivers, in every race, but it's just something always seems to happen to him.
Results.
We had Tom get into an incident in 2 races in a row now, and now it looks like, he's just continuing with the bad luck. As we look at the results now for round 8 of season 8, and Rui Coimbra, like we said, 5 seconds ahead of the P2 driver, and it's just a dominant win for him. He played the strategy right, got out ahead of the traffic, and just drove away, and Jedediah just, couldn't catch up to him. He finished in P2. David Staub in P3, good race for him. Of course, this is after Joshua Soto and Mitchell Peak had that big incident. Josh Soto went wide at the uphill, and that was, one of the spots that I thought something was going to happen, and it did happen. And Mitchell Peak luckily got out of that alive and finishes P4. Simon Foweather winning the open class in P5 overall. So that's a good race for him. Jordy Fike in P6. Kenneth Staub in P7. That's a good race for him. Paulo Coimbra in P8. Charles Vaccaro P9. Otis Adams Jr. in P10. Brian Sabowski in P11. Good race for him. Jose Gonzalez in P12. Sean Hayes in P13. Andrew Rosencroft in P14. Greg Brockway in P15. Stephen Hellowell in 16th. Joshua Soto in 17th after that awful crash that he had. Patrick Prevenas is in 18th tonight. And you can't forget about Tom Rath, who I couldn't see him on the screen there, finishing in last place tonight. Of course, after that lap 1 crash that he had with, I think it was Mitchell Peak. So tough to see that, but no, I think it was a good race, throughout the field, except for those couple of incidents. But what do you think about this, Alex?
And I really enjoyed that race, but let's get to the interviews. We're going to drag our winner for today's event in the pro class and overall. Rui Coimbra, my man, you did it again.
Alex, how you doing? Yeah, what a race, man. That was, I'm sweating over there. That was exciting stuff. Jed got pole position. What an amazing lap. And I was just trying to keep up with those guys. But yeah, that was a fun race. I was saving a little bit of fuel. And, going into the stop, you never really know, right? Are you taking enough? Did you save enough? And then once Joshua pit, I saw him coming out. He was going to be right behind me, but I don't know if he had cold tires. But he fell back a little bit, and I was like, here's my chance to push. Jed pit at the lap after that. And he was like 6 seconds back. I think he took too much fuel, he was telling me. But, after the pit stop, I was like, all right, this is it. The race has started. Just keep pushing and keep building that gap. So, Adam, I want to say thank you to you for not putting the curse on me last week after you said it's getting boring having me in here all the time. So thanks for not putting the commentator's curse on me.
Well, see, I do want to say that I did honestly put the commentator's curse on Otis Adams, and I've done it at least 3 weeks in a row in the open class he's in. I mentioned that he's got the pace, and he did get into another incident at the end, so I am glad at least I don't commentator curse everybody, to be honest with you, but I feel terribly for Otis Adams, but really I am so happy for you, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thank you, guys. And yeah, great race. And it's nice racing with all these clean, fast guys. You know, it always makes it exciting.
Yeah, and one question that I do have is I know you did pit a little bit earlier than Jedediah Babinek and I believe that was Joshua Soto. Yes, it was. You pitted definitely a few laps earlier than them. I know you took left side tires, and I know you mentioned Babinek accidentally took more fuel. But do you think did you think that those left side tires would have had a bit of an effect closer to the end of that race?
Yeah, definitely. Even in the draft. So when I was, I backed out a little bit because I was falling into a trance. I was even telling the guys on the Not a Team Discord, I was like falling into a trance being that close to those guys. You know, the track's very like, it's a small track and I don't know, I was just starting to make mistakes. So I backed out a little bit just to have a little more visibility as to what was going on. And, you know, I pushed for a lap or two, and I was like 8/10 slower than my best lap in the race. So the tires definitely helped. You know, I was matching my best lap at a race after the pit stop with the fresh tires. So definitely gave me an advantage. And I think that's why Joshua probably fell back a little bit, because he was pushing on those cold tires and was struggling.
Yeah, but obviously still a fantastic showing from you. You get another win for Team Watson and hashtag Not a Team. Anybody you want to thank? You know, maybe give a shout out to those guys on stream.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, shout out to my brother. Great job getting P2 in class. I know he's had a couple of close ones, but super proud of him. You know, Jose and Otis, we do a lot of practice together, so big shout out to those guys. Shout out to my wife and kids. And, you know, you guys for always putting on a great broadcast. I tell everybody about it. It's always fun to go back and watch. And I think Brennan said he was on the air today too. So shout out to Brennan and, of course, Greg for hosting a great league.
Rui, I do want to ask you to try to get your brother into the Discord, because right now he is not sitting in interview waiting, and we do definitely want to interview Paulo, but can't do that if he's not in here. So if you can,
Adam, that is in fact incorrect. He is an interview waiting.
Oh, never mind. Just kidding. He just showed up. So here I am talking again without knowing what I'm talking about. So I'm going to shut up now.
All right, but Rui Coimbra, obviously always great talking to you, my man. Have a good night. I'm going to drag you back.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
All right, next we have the second place finisher for the pro class, Jedediah Babinek. Brennan Horn, he's all yours.
Jedediah, that was a great race. We had a lot of fun watching it. We had a lot of our thoughts on the strategy tonight. We were thinking, you know, with Jedediah being P1 this whole first stint, maybe he's using a bit more fuel. Maybe he's, you know, what is he thinking? What were you thinking that first stint where you had Josh and Rui right behind you?
Well, go fast for starters, because Josh is super quick and so is Rui. So I wanted to keep those two guys behind me, and if we could stay together, we were going to be able to blow the whole pack away, hopefully. Which it seems like we started to really gap those guys. As far as fuel strategy, I was really, in my mind, I was thinking go as long as I can, and then wait to see what those two guys are going to do. Ideally, I'd pit towards the very end of the pit window and have the freshest left side tires possible at the end of the race, hopefully being able to pull something off, even if I was probably going to go back with the situation when it stop. But then I saw Rui go in, probably, I think it was earlier, around middle of the pit window, and it sort of didn't necessarily surprise me, because I figured he'd probably try to go for the undercut or something like that. And then Josh going in on the next lap. Really, it just came down to, I kind of caught the traffic there after Josh went in. So right then and there, I knew, okay, I need to go in now because I'm losing time on that. And then once I went in, I just took too much fuel, because the way I've got things set up, I have to know what my fuel levels are before I start loading fuel, which I did not in my frenzy see. So I knew I needed 1.8, but ended up taking 2.0. So when I came out, I was like, oh boy, I'm behind everybody. So ran like a bat out of hell trying to get past him. Fortunately, we took a couple laps. By that time, Rui was off and gone, and at that point, I didn't have anything for him.
Yeah, I was about to say, we saw you come out of the pits right in that pack of cars, and we thought it was, pretty much almost over for you. But then you got to the head of that pack, and then it looked like behind you, Joshua Soto, and then, the couple of cars behind him kept running wide at a bunch of corners, and you just kept it clean and kept your head down. What was that like, being at the front of such a long, kind of string of cars, knowing that all the people behind you are, really talented?
Yeah, I mean, well, honestly, I was hoping that they were going to catch up, because if Josh had caught up to me, I figured maybe there's a chance we can train together and start to make some ground on Rui, because without any draft assistance or anything like that, I really didn't think I was going to be able to have much for him. I would have needed at least about a half a second a lap to catch him, and I only had left sides that were 2 laps newer than his, so that was definitely not going to happen.
Well, no matter what you did, it looked like you did a good job, and you got P2 tonight. Is there anyone that you want to thank?
I want to thank Tom Cruise and Kenny Loggins for making Top Gun Maverick and making us all happy. So go see it in theaters, guys.
Well, Jedediah, good race tonight, and we hope to talk to you next week, maybe again on a podium spot.
Sounds good. See you guys.
And that was Jedediah Babinek, your second place finisher in the pro class. But we're now going to get a chance to talk to our winner for the open class, P5 overall, Simon Foweather. How'd you get it done?
Not sure, but I think Otis should have gotten it. Deserved it overall, but I'll definitely take it.
Yeah, and a great job from you. Unfortunate for Otis, we commentators cursed him again. But a great job from him tonight, and obviously a great job from you. You were obviously racing with those guys really hard towards the end of that race. Didn't get the best start. You still were able to hold on to it and get up to the lead. Well, not really the lead, P5 overall in the win in the open class. A great job from you. How hard did you have to battle those guys in order to maintain your spot?
Yeah, it was. I thought I had a good start. Then at turn 1, I went wide, and there's just no grip out there. And Sean overtook me for the open lead on the first corner, which was I couldn't believe it when I saw it. And so I was going to take it easy until I saw Sean, and just basically settled in for the pit stop. Did a relatively early pit stop. A bunch of other guys pitted ahead of me 1 lap before, and so I went on the next one, and seemed to work out. And then Otis and I were basically glued together. I let him by pretty early just to make it easy on the tires and fuel save a bit. And then we came up against, I think it was Mitchell, I can't remember. And then Otis was trying to overtake, and I didn't want to get one car between me and him. So I started panicking a little bit. And then we all bunched up and had a bit of I think it was 3 wide on turn 1, and just braked a little bit too late. And that was it. I was trying so hard to catch back onto the draft, and I just couldn't quite get there. So it was a little bit frustrating.
Obviously, you were able to overcome that to win the race for the open class. Anyone you want to thank for being able to get up here?
Thank Brennan, as always, and thanks to you guys for putting on a good show. So I appreciate it.
All right, well, thank you, Simon Foweather. That was your winner for the open class. And now, we've gotten the top 2 for the pro class. We're going to round out the top 2 for the open class. Brennan, I'll leave them to you. Paulo Coimbra, your second place in the open class. Brennan?
Hey, Paulo, that was a really, really exciting to watch. Walk me through some of the tricky moments that you had throughout the race. We saw a couple of, you went a little wide on a couple of corners and had a couple of good battles. So, what did you think of the race?
Well, I think for me it was a very good race. I was trying to play safe. I really didn't try to make any hard moves. I was very content, and then as I was following 2 cars, I felt I had a little bit more pace, so I tried to save a little bit of fuel, and then I think the fuel strategy that helped me a little bit.
It looks like you were having a pretty good battle there with Charles Vaccaro for a few laps, and coming up to the line, it looked like you guys were pretty close. You did a good job defending. How did you feel about your defending skills tonight? Because clearly they were good.
Yeah, I think was okay. Yes, I didn't try to defend too hard. I think I've been racing Vaccaro a couple times, and I think we've been being very respectful to each other. I saw him charging a little bit towards special turn 1, but I think I had the upper end of being a little bit ahead. So yeah, in a way, it was not a difficult race for me. I just got lucky. Really, I got lucky because of other people crashing.
Paul, we had your brother Rui in the booth here a little bit earlier, and he was talking about how proud he was of you, doing so good in this league. We've seen you improve a ton this year. Have you felt that as well? It's really showing with your results. Obviously, P2 tonight. It's just a great race, and you have a lot of skill. Do you feel that?
Yes, definitely. I feel that I have been improving a lot. Also, turning off the mic helps me a lot in concentrating in the race instead of chit chatting. So I think that helped a lot too.
Well, everything that you've done this season has obviously helped you a lot, and you've got P2 this race. Is there anyone that you want to thank tonight for this great effort that you put on?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely the Not a Team guys. I mean, we practice together. We are really good friends. And also I want to mention Tim Watson, a great group of guys. I love to race with them. And you guys putting up a very, very good broadcasting. I love the way you guys sweep across the entire field. You guys do not get stuck on the front cars for the entire race. I love it. I really love the way you guys do it.
We appreciate that a lot, Paulo. Congratulations on your P2 finish tonight in the open class, and we hope to talk to you next week.
Paulo, hang on.
Thank you, guys.
Before you get
Sure.
dragged out of here, man, I just want to thank you for giving us a shout out like that. It's pretty cool to hear some of the driver feedback we get, and sometimes we do mess up, and I think tonight, Paulo, if you go back and watch the broadcast, it may have been one of the shakier ones I think we've done, but that is not on Brennan and Alex. That is definitely on me. But I want to thank you so much for giving us, the praise, and I mean all the drivers for a new company starting out. It's pretty cool to hear everybody giving us as much praise as we do. So yeah, thank you, man, for doing that.
Yeah, well, let me say one more thing. You guys do deserve it, because really you don't see many other broadcasters constantly sweeping across the entire field. You guys cover the middle, you guys cover the guys in the back. It's awesome, because a lot of these other broadcasters that sometimes I watch, you get stuck with the 4 cars in the lead, and either they're fighting or not, that's where you get stuck. You guys do a great job. I love it.
Thank you, Paulo, very much.
All right. Take care, guys. Have a good night.
All right, well, everyone, that was your second place finisher for the open class. Great job from Paulo Coimbra tonight, as we're going to get the last man on the podium for the pro class. Mitchell Beek, you did a great job all race. Were able to take advantage of other people's mistakes, and you end up P3 at the end of the day for the pro class. How'd you do it?
I have no idea. If I'm being honest, I think I was put on the back foot early. I had an incident with Tom in turn 1, lap 1. We went like 4 wide, and I wasn't trying to do anything crazy. I was just kind of there, and I tried to back out, but Tom kind of came down, and it was a weird incident. And then I got like locked up with him, and I think I fell like P11. So I knew I had some work to do. And then in my pit stop, I overshot the box and I had to reverse, and it was like a disaster race for me. So to finish P4 overall, I'm quite happy with that. You know, I had a little incident with Otis with, I think, 2 laps to go coming into the left-hander there of turn 2 or 3, and you know, I'm not really sure exactly what happened there, but I was fortunate enough to not die. And then I had another massive hit with a lap and a half to go with Soto. He lost it and he hit the wall coming out of Big Ben, or not Big Ben, the right-hander at the bottom of the hill, and I smoked him with speed, and I had some damage, but my car was still driving straight, but I was down on straight line speed. So to cross the line ahead of Simon at the end, I was pretty ecstatic to finish P4 overall at that point.
Yeah, a great job from you tonight. And going back to that lap 1 incident, I know you explained what happened there, but how much of a disadvantage did that put you on, and how did you overcome it?
Well, I mean, I don't think that Rui or Tom or I thought that, I think it was Simon was going to take it 4 wide into turn 1. So as soon as Simon made his move, I think Tom was like, oh, I got to give him space on the outside, and he cut down a little bit, and I was on the brakes just before, and I was trying to cut in right behind Rui and steal the super inside line so that we didn't have contact, but the damage was already done. And the way that I locked up with Tom when it happened was just really unfortunate for everybody. It was like Tom spun completely sideways, and I was like pushing his car sideways down the track for a little bit. And, you know, for me, I was fortunate enough that he bounced off the other way, but for Tom, it just really sucks that his race ended before it even started. But then, you know, falling down, I think I was P11 when I crossed the line on lap 2, and it was like, well, what am I going to do to salvage this race? So my strategy at that point was see how close I can get to the guys in front of me, and when traffic starts to be a problem, I'm going to pit early and I'm going to try to undercut. And I thought that was going to be the right move, and then I come out of the pits, and when the pit stop cycled, I'm looking, and the battle for P3 was 6 cars, and I was the last car in the line. It was like, all right, well, used tires on the left side. I didn't take rights, so those tires are absolutely shot, and let's just go balls to the wall and see what I can make of this race. And, you know, thankfully enough, I was able to finish P4 overall.
Yeah, and again, a fantastic job from you tonight. Had to come over some mild hills and bumps, but eventually you still get the podium and good points for Team Esport Racer. Anybody you want to thank for being able to be up here?
You know, I just want to thank everyone for putting the race on. Like, you guys do a great job with the broadcast, so props to that. I know that we were looking for some people to put the race on, doing it live streaming and everything, and you know, everyone across the board that's racing in here thinks you're doing a great job. So number one, props to you guys. You know, Brennan and Brock, who are putting the series on, you know, thanks to them. They're great guys, and you know, this wouldn't be happening without them. And you know, props to all the other racers that are in the series, because you know, we do our best to keep it clean and give a good show for the fans. So I come out here to have a good time, and you know, tonight might not have gone my way perfectly, but I still had a lot of fun. So happy to be here, happy that I made the podium for the pro class, and you know, next time I just hope I'm on that top step.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think you have the pace to get it done. A fantastic showing from you tonight, but I'm going to drag you back, and I hope you have a good night, man.
Thanks a lot. Good talking to you.
Yep. That was Mitchell Peak, your 3rd place finisher in the open class. Now, my opinion, that was a fantastic race. Great racing all around from everybody, even with the couple of incidents and hiccups that we had. But a fantastic race overall, a great finish from everybody in the field. Brennan, you got any closing thoughts for tonight?
Yeah, I think it was just interesting to see the difference between, the same exact track, but just different, slightly different surface and stuff like that. It was a very exciting race last season at this track with the new version, and then this track was a little bit different. But hey, we learned something, and I think it was still a great race anyways, even though it wasn't, as exciting. There was still, almost every lap there was someone side-by-side passing, and of course our producer, Adam, had a lot of replays to go through, and I think it shows that it was still a good race. I think all the drivers kept it clean, and just happy about that. And luckily they made my job easier as an admin. I don't have to go through many incidents tonight, so it's a good race all around.
Well, I believe that's going to do it, folks. My name is Alex Anderson. I've been joined in the booth today by Brennan Horn and Adam Thompson. Fantastic race all around from these guys. This was Slow Motion Broadcasting's coverage of Round 8 of the Spec-5 World Tour at Lime Rock, and we'll see you next week.